So he's explaining, it's all to explain the Maila of the Avodah of the Shvatim. So he's explaining that the Ovis, Yitzchak, is the Avodah of V'chol Levavcha, Avram V'chol Nafshecha, and Yaakov V'chol Meidecha. Then there's still a higher Avodah, it's the Avodah of the Shvatim to be seen, although he mentioned already it's the Inyan of Torah. So he explained that the Ovis correspond to Avraham is Pnei Aryeh on the Yamin, and Yitzchak is Pnei Shor on the left, B'Smoil, and Yaakov is the Nesher, Rachmanis, Ba'emtze, in the middle. So this is what the Malachim are saying. To understand all of this, and corresponding to these three Avis, the Malachim say, Kodesh, 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 Havai Tzvokes. What's the union of Kodesh? So Kodesh means Havdalah, it means the connecting to a level of Elikus, which is beyond the Ilamis. But in the word Kodesh is the letter Vav, which means there is Hamshacha. And Hamshacha, it's a small, thin letter, so it means the Ikir connection remains Makif, but there is Hamshacha that is Nimshach in the Pnimius to the level below, to the Makabel. So to understand these three Kodesh, these three levels, a moshel of the person, and the moshel traces the desire of the heart to the spoken word. To go from the desire of the heart to the spoken word, there's three tzimtzumim. There's the tzimtzum of the pnimius hevel alev that produces the machshava. There's the tzimtzum then that produces from the chitzonius hevel alev that produces the word just about to be spoken. And then there's a third tzimtzum that produces the actual physical word. So likewise, Lamaila, did we finish? That's what we're up to, I think, Lamaila. Yeah, so now we're going to, Nimshum is 3 lines from the top of the page, is Dalet, the second page, the last words. So Nimshum is Yuvon Lamaila, B'chinas Adam ha'elyon sheyesh b'gimel tzimtzumim. Likewise above, the Adam ha'elyon, the Eibishter, which we are parallel, B'tzelem elikim nivra ha'adam. Shazeh gam ke gimel pamim kodesh, there's also the 3 dargas of kodesh. Shal yodam nimshach, the pasuk says kodesh, kodesh, kodesh havai tzvokes. So through these 3 tzimtzumim, nimshach liyos havai tzvokes. So the Eibishter is drawn down Havaya tzvokes, and how does he teach it here? Havaya as mahava, to create. Hind of lahavos is called riboy hatzva Yisrael yoinim, to create the great multitude of heavenly legions or hosts. As the Gemara says, what does the name tzvokes mean? Gemara Chagiga, there's actually different girsos. This is the girsa of the Yaakov, that tzvokes is oisu b'tzova delay. He stands out. He stands out amongst his hosts, which means we're talking about the amshacha of velikus, to create hosts, to create heavenly beings. So how does Hashem create? So in order to get to that point of actual creation, which is the divine speech, that with the word of Havai, which is exactly what this tzvokes is saying, heaven is created. So what creates? So it's the letters of the 10 Mamoris, and it explains in Tanya how is all of creation, every creature created from the 10 Maimoris. There are uncountable, beyond number creations. So it explains there from Kabbalah that it happens through Tziruf Oisius, through combinations of letters, or exchanging them, or substituting them. And moreover, the substitute itself is subject to further chilufim, further exchanges. These are all systems of connectiveness between letters. There are letters that are grouped together because they're all guttural, etc. There are letters that are all breath related. There are letters that are related in terms of their numerical value. There's all kinds of connections with the temuras and exchanges. So this renders endless numbers and the endless creations. So in order for this to happen, so very bekitzer, paralleling the mashal that he just gave. So there's the first tzimtzum, sheyumshach mipnimiyas halev da'odam ba'elyon. Like we said, the first tzimtzum is to go from the pnimiyas halev of the heart, the hevel of the pnimiyas halev, and to ascend to the person's machshava. So likewise, there is the amshacha from the pnimiyas halev of the Admo elyon, love ba'osis hamachshava. That produces osis hamachshava. That's one tzimtzum. The yachakach tzimtzum abei is the second tzimtzum. Shehu yiridas eira machshava love lichitzonius hevel halev. Now we're moving from the pnimiyas to the chitzonius. And that is the stage just before the letters, just before the spoken word. Vad tzimtzum hagimel sheimshach mechitzonius hevel halev, which is somewhat ruchni, lakel hadibura elyon, to the actual speech, which is also ruchni by the Eibishter, but it produces tangibility. Lias mizei yisavas kol olam, all of creation. Before he mentioned Grada only, he's talking about the tzvokes elyonim. I was wondering why, but anyway, here it concludes yisavas kol olam. Okay, so we get the general idea, certainly. Yes, friends? Yeah, the tzimtzumim, the three general tzimtzumim that are required to produce Hashem's word, which is basically Malchus, as Malchus descends to create Biyah. However, so we're going lower. The tzimtzumim are a series of lower and lower tzimtzumim. We're going further out from the essential self in the moshel, and like it was in the nimshel. It starts in the rusa de liba and it ends up in a spoken word. That's a great distance. So l'chayr, it's a big yirid, and it is. However, achdafke al yedei tzimtzum de kodesh hagimel, but it's the third tzimtzum, lias nimshach v'kel v'dibur, that the desire of Hashem to create is then manifested in the actual word, let there be, he erred, and so on. And as he said, not just he erred, but all of the processes after that to produce every individual creation. So dafke here, nase iloi godel yoser gam lagabe kodesh aleph. This creates that there's a greater virtue here than even the first kodesh, means the first darga, the rusa de liba. How is this possible? How is this possible? Just described tremendous yirida. And he's saying there's a mile. Yuvam behektem. Maimer Azal, the Gemara says in Broches, explaining the opinion of Rabbi Eliezer that Krishma, Zman Krishma shall Arvin, shall Arvis, is at Seif HaShmura HaRishona till the end of the first watch. What is he referring to? The Gemara explains that the night is divided into three watches. The watches is referring to the Malachim, the Maila. Sholish Mishmora Yisavi Laila. And the Gemara goes on to say that here in Elam Hazeh, there are things that happen that reflect. Remembers Gemara and Parshas, everybody learned it. No. The last one is a mother nurses her child, and the husband and wife start to speak. There's the dog barks and the crow, the rooster. 3 stages. Koponim, But here's the ikar he wants to bring. The Gemara continues. At every watch, at every change of the God, quite literally, the malachim l'mayla. Yoshev HaKadosh Baruch Hu v'shoyeh ka'ari. The Eibishter sits and cries out in anguish like a lion over the Churban Beis Hamikdash, over Golus. Shenemar Hashem, the pasuk. In Mishlei, Hashem imorim yishag, God on high cries, and then a double expression, shoig yishag, and like a lion. So these are the three mishmaros. And the Eibishter is crying out, V'inyan bazeh, dihinei laila, meir al cheshech v'helen v'hestet b'chinas hamalchus. Light indicates darkness. That's Malchus descending, that's Knesset Yisrael, Yidden in Elam Hazeh, Yidden in creation. Malchus, Kefisha Shiyiredes, Me'atzilis to Biyah, Malchus descending from Atzilis to Biyah, the Mosach of Parsa through the screen and the veil, through tremendous Tzimtzum, and the whole Kavonah is, K'dei Levad, Birurim, Neshamas Yisrael descend, into the world to elevate the sparks, like we're going to say tonight, the Eishes Chayil, which refers to Knesset Yisrael, and also to the Shechina, which is invested in every neshama. V'takom b'yid laila, she gets up while it's still light. That's the Golus. V'titin teref levesa, and she gives the prey. Teref means something which is snatched. This is the h'tshek dusha that's, as it were, snatched from Elam Hazeh. A Yid engages in Elam Hazeh, it looks like he's like everybody else, but in the last minute, we see what's the whole kavanah, that it's all for kedusha, it's snatched from it, because it doesn't appear that way at the outset. Knaini, as Chassidus explains, a merchant that uses an element of virtuous deception. Because of the whole avodah, the yerida in Golus, to elevate in its kedusha, so the Eibishter cries. Not just the Eibishter, he says, it's the Yid that cries. Behind that shuka and the shechina begolusa, but that's the Yid. That shuka v'harotzu ilalis l'mayl. This is the desire to ascend. That's the shaiga. At every mishmar, at every yerida. Like the Zohar says, the Nahira Tator, the lower flame. It's referring to a flame at the base of it is black. And it gets bright as you go up. The Nahira Tator, Kori Todir, Nahira Ilah, is calling out constantly to the upper level of the flame, and is never appeased. The constant longing, the nature of the flame, which begins dafke with the darkness of the flame. That's the cheshech hagolos, and the desire for aliyah, reflected in every gashmi's dika flame. Kener havayin nishmas adam, every neshama is likened to a flame, and a flame gashmi describes the neshama as it comes lamata, tethered to the wick. That's the darkest place, and the longing for connection. We're clear? And this is what the Gemara is saying, that there are three watches to the night. This is the three tzimtzum we mentioned, we described above. Shal Yodam hi Yerida Lamata Yosa, through which there's the great Yerida, the final word that creates Biyah, Helen Vehester, Al Kol, Mishmor, Mishma Yosh, Vakadish Baruch Kari. And at every juncture of the Tzimtzum, the Eibush says, Gewalt, what have I done? And this Gewalt is the whole Kavanah. This The Gewalt is the desire to ascend, not to make peace chas v'sholem with the matziv. Zero, now another deal. I don't know if this is anywhere. Zero gam di kaloshin mishmar. So the Gemara is describing, the Mishnah says that Tzif Hashmura Rishona till the end of the first watch. That right? That's Rabbi Eliezer. What's this lashon mishmar? So it's also conveying Shukamoy Beis Asurim, a prison, Shenikra Mishmar, so where a person is kept guarded. Al Shem Sheshemim Sham Asurim, the prisoners are guarded there, which is conveys the of what of Helem and Tzimtzum and Golus, and concealment, and the opposite of freedom. So the term Mishmar implies the great descent, the Laila, that it gets darker and darker as the night proceeds. It's like a prison. The neshama is imprisoned in the goof, and there's the three levels of imprisonment as the neshama descends. Miger Rama, right, from, as you said before, the Bira Mikta, from Chachmi Ilah to the goof. And this is the cry. Kol Mishma Mishma Yeshiva Kadosh Baruch Hu v'Shoyikari. So Mizem move on. So what is this all telling us? So the greater the descent, so the cry, the Geval Jachukul, at least the mile of the longing to ascend, to connect, it becomes B'teik of Godel Yosef with greater intensity. And it's not a cry in vain, but rather the Gewalt affects that the person transcend and leave and go beyond the limitation in which he has been thrust. To transcend even the loftiest tzimtzum, the first tzimtzum, the Kodesh Aleph, which affected Shal Yoda Nimshach Metshuka Shebelev, from the desire of the heart, which is a very still a lofty place, still in the world of Machshava, even that tzimtzum, the Shaiget implodes, transcends. And this is what the pasuk is saying, another pasuk. Tilim. Sha'akti minamas libi, I cried from the turmoil of my heart. Implying the cry comes from the essence of the heart, from where it all began, and the desire of the heart. That this cry comes from a place in the neshama that is higher, not only Mikael, the dibur, not only obviously higher than the spoken sound, called the ishtama, a sound that is heard, higher even than the sound that cannot be expressed in words, even higher than, we're talking machshava de l'mayla, a yid reaches through his cry, higher even than the Eibishter's machshava v'achas. He touches the deep desire which began it all, the nisava kadosh baruch Hu, which is the desire for a connection with him. Even higher than chachmas tima, which is the overt level of his own neshama. This is what this cry connects you to, and that's the whole kavan. That explains the Yerid, the neshama starts from chachmas tima. That's where neshama's origin from is. But through coming lamata and the gewalt and the shaiga, the neshama reaches atzmos, the rotzen aposhet, shelamayla gam b'chinas chachmas tima. Clear? Now, the is bestira. Because the Shaige is saying is higher than the avodas of the others, and yet the Avram is Kari. So he has to explain that. The Masha Kosev Shei Kari, Valoshana Kosev Kari Yishog, Arya Davke, lion. This is not the level we spoke of before. Ein Zerak Prinas Pnei Arya. It is connected, but it's not only the Pnei Arya Ela Yumin, which was the Darge of Av Shoinyan, Av B'Tochol Nafshecha Kanal Siv Gimel. But this is Elokoy La'av B'Chol Ma'itcha. This is the highest Darge. Ki Yedua Shebinyan HaChesed, in the union of Chesed, which is Kav Yamin, there's Is Chesed, Vis Chesed, there's Darges, there's Chesed, there's Rav Chesed. There's Noitzer Chesed and there's Rav Chesed. Noitzer Chesed, I love him. And Rav Chesed, he goes on to say, Is Chesed, they say the Shtalshlus, Chesed Shlamarim, they say the Shtalshlus. So before we were talking about the Chesed, the Ava of Avram, that say the Shtalshlus. He was speaking, B'chol Ma'itcha Hayd the Shtalshlus. In Beis HaMadreg is the Noitzer Chesed. Noitzer means he preserves. Rav Chesed and abundant Chesed. The Noitzer is Tziner. So the word Noitzer also is the same letter as Tziner, which means a channel, which implies a limitation. That's an Ava, which is a result of his abundance and Seichel. It's limited, it's a channel. But then there's a Lamayim Bizeh, which we're speaking now, in Rav Chesed, Shachesed Shalamayim Me'agbala. Again, this is the three Kodeshes, the Shaige, the final, deepest Shaige, cry. So what is the union of Ari over here? So here, Ari, the emphasis here is the Darge is saying of Rav Chesed, where it is not the love born of his bondness of Seichel, which is Noitzer Chesed, Tziner, limited Ava, but an Ava which is as a result of Re'iyah. And seeing, of course, is totally beyond relating through comprehension. Hainishi, Spilus Alev Einerak, it does include it, but it's not only, because at the end of the day, it's the union of Aryeh. It's the union of Chesed, is Chesed, is Chesed. But this has already gone beyond B'chol Ma'itcha, Einerak Mitzad HaSoga, Sheba B'is Yashvus, B'kli HaMoich Ve'alev. It's not only a Spilus that comes from understanding, from the mind and the heart, an understanding which is apprehended B'is Yashvus, but he sees. You shall know and take to your heart, meaning it's not enough that it remains in the das, but returns to the heart. Now this doesn't say necessarily this is the dark of Riyah, but he adds, see the Zoya. So obviously there's something in the Pasuk that points to Shavuos Elavavecha, that's higher than Stam, the Ava B'chol Levavcha, this is the Ava B'chol Ma'itcha. Sha'oz, quoting the Pasuk now again from Tilim, Shoig Yishag Menamas Liboy, the turmoil of the heart, this is the inner level of the heart, the fish a spilus iboifan shlayuchol isyashe b'kli amer. Why is the turmoil? Because when he sees something, it's not internalized intellectually. What he's seeing is beyond, and therefore it's not settled. B'kli amer v'alev. So this is Yaakov. This is the Pnei Nesher. This is B'chol Ma'itcha, and the connection therefore to the Nesher. So we said before that this Ava, unlike the first Avas, which is settled and satisfying, this one is not, because this whole Ava and longing is born from the Rachmanis, from the distance. It's like the whole nature of the Ava is Gewalt, unlike the first two. And that's the Rachmanis, the story we told of the princess who's talking to the neshama in the guf. So this Av, the Gewalt Av, the Av of the Ear, the Av of Rachmanis, he sees that there's something fundamentally beyond. It's because Bechlal, the Inyan of the Ear is much closer to the person than his bodiness. But here he's speaking at Ear because he doesn't comprehend it. He sees the Gewalt of the Melech and recognizes that the pitiful Rachmanis, the state where we are thrust, so this pales this Gewalt, this longing. So Vazen Nemar Kanesha Yor Kinoi Al Goizel of Yerachim. Moishe Rabbeinu is describing Matan Torah, the Eibishter came like the eagle that awakens its nest and hovers over its young. He's going to explain this. Rashi Parshas explains that Rahman is not overwhelming the chicks. He carries him on his wings, on his pinions. These are all not wanting to overwhelm and carrying him on his wings as opposed to in his talon, so that the arrow enters the eagle and not the offspring. There's all Rachmanis kasher. It explains kasher. The eagle expresses this compassion. So when the eagle is afraid of prey, then he other prey. So then he hovers over the nest. And when he is fearful of the arrows, he carries them on his wings, all pointing to what? Ready to take the arrow. This is the great love of Haydn Akbala, the union of the ultimate Yishag. So all of this is all the dargis of the Ovis. This is all the Merkava. Let's go a little bit further. Omlam called Zehu Madreges Ovis Shem Merkava. This is the Pnei Shoir, Pnei Aryeh, Pnei Nesher. I'm just wondering why he puts this change of the Seder here. Upon him. This end of the day, even Machal Ma'itcha is the Midas. Just to bring the pasuk that he quoted earlier, Vazel Ne'emar. The Yidden say, why do you lead us astray from your ways? You have hardened our heart from your Yireh. So this is the avoid of the Ovis. And what do we conclude? We don't have that. Yitzhahara has led us astray. And we're not, it's not bequeathed to us, but we have abandoned it. So what's our request? Shuv, return to us. So now he's going to return to us and for the sake of your servants. So now we're going to learn the gewaldige Meile Dafke of the avoid of the Shvatim. And that Be'ez Hashem will continue on Monday.